Okay, and so here we are again. This is a sequel where I have to remove that color. I just deleted it because I didn't show you that part. This is like a sequel to a video that I did previously, as most sequels are. So in the previous video, I made all the stuff you see here, and now I'm just gonna continue with that. Make a long story short. Um, this is actually, yeah, I had these layers here. What I did is I made a new layer and I started playing around with color on it, just for experimentation. And truth be told, we're not ready for that. But some of these layers here are good to go, and I'm going to flatten those real quick. What we're going to do, excuse me, in this episode, if you will, is just clean up some mistakes and finish up the composition. Composition is the art of aligning things. Right here, well, let me be more specific, not just aligning things, but putting things into your image, right? The composition. It's almost like such a self-explanatory word for me at this point, the composition, because you can even use this word in regular everyday talk. It's just a matter of putting things together. I have a tree here, I have a girl there. If I wanted to, I could move them over here, or, you know, what should my camera angle be, and all of this stuff. So there's a lot of that to composition. For me, what's important at this point in time is perspective. And what I'm going to do is turn this layer down a little bit, come in here with a nice sharp black, and realize that the girl, I want to get halfway of where she is. So I have to turn this off, dynamics off, and get right in the middle of where she is. That's going to be that's where I choose to be my horizon for this image. And as you can see, the things back here that I have drawn previously, it's very unclear as to what anything is. What we have here is, I was just showing these colors going off, getting lighter and lighter into the background, but it's not to say that it actually is anything. It could look like it's mountains, or it could, be anything else. I have nothing in mind, is basically the point I'm getting at. I have no idea what that is. But what I do want to do is make sure that I have some good perspective. Now, if the girl is standing here, um, to have it about that. And even if, yeah, what about that part here? How about this foot is all the way over here, and we have kind of a triangle going on. I just want to make sure that I have her height set up correctly, and so it should be from here to there. Right. Okay. And this is all being done on a separate layer. So if I were to go just behind her and put another her, that second her would be this tall. As we go off into the distance, things get smaller. They get smaller and smaller and smaller. So I'm going to get a feeling of, if she was about this far back, then she would only be this tall from here to here, right? So I can even put this layer above. That's a bit more clear. From here to there, that's how tall she would be if she was back in this area right there. So now I'm starting getting a feeling of perspective. If she would be that tall back there, two of her would be this tall. Now, your average person is, less than 6 feet. So it's somewhere between 5'5" and 6. So three of her would be this tall. Now, the reason I want to figure that out, because I have a lot in mind for what I want to do with some architecture back here, or perhaps some kind of weird tribal things, statues or something like this, to make it a little sci-fi or fantasy looking. Um, excuse me, a little hoarse throat today. Um, so if she is, I'm going to give her a height of, like, 5'5". Let's just even say she's 6 to make it easy. So if she's 6 foot tall, this would be 24 feet high, which is, less than a story. So one building story would be 12 feet, if she's 6 foot here, 7, 8, 9, 10, somewhere around there. The 6 times 2 is 12. Oh yeah, sorry, my math was a little weird. So actually, like two of her, 12 feet would be good for one story. I mean, just averaging it off. So if we wanted to represent like a building in this area right here, then one story of that building would be this high, and the second story would start to go up from there. So I can go back to the horizon like this, and that looks like a complete mess. And Jesus, Brendan, what are you talking about? Well, let me try and make it clear. Now that I've done all that math, I can start to make a building right about here. And if this is one story, this is why I wanted to know this. If this is going to be one story high right about here, then we know that the distance from here to there, as it gets smaller, we would make the door this high so that a person, could actually walk into it. It's got to be big enough for at least one story. And then, you could have another story for the building here. And the second story, yeah, would also be about that high and it would come down on an angle like this. So that's basically what I'm getting at. But as you can see, there's already still something wrong with that because if we get rid of this other mess here, now that's not really quite a building. If the door is this long, then the space from here to here or from here to here, it's not a very wide building. Like if I were to put a window here, uh, well that would be too big of a window. Maybe have it like people height would be, from here to here at this distance. Then you can see it's a very small building and it's an odd place for the door to be. So let's try and get bigger. Again, we'll go to the this layer where I'm doing all my scratchy notes here. And yeah, that would have been a much better perspective line. Back on this level here, maybe we should bring it down to about there. Right. Now, the funny thing is, I don't even want to have a building here, really. I don't need one, this type of boxy building anyway. But having drawn that out, I get a much better feeling for the depth and the space of what's going on here. I'm going to do that building, and then I'm going to make pretend that there is another building after that one. And in order to give it a similar size and depth and stuff like that, we'll say it's like this tall. And who knows, maybe I will eventually use these buildings. So that would be the first story. Second story would be this high. I'm going to go down like that. Let's make it go all the way down to where it should at that vanishing point. Next one, 3 stories would be here. And then we could imagine the other ones would be. So if I wanted a 4-story building, let's see, one, that's even a little short. So it'd be like 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And these are a little short. So let's just say at this distance back here, this thing would be 1, 2, 3, or 4 stories. And I'll get rid of that line there. Okay. Now again, what am I even talking about? This is, getting crazy. But what we're saying is from her, where she is standing here, if I were to go back to if she were to go back to this distance right here, she'd only be that tall because here's the height of one story of building. And that's going to give me a little bit of sense for where I can put things in the space back there. The reason I did that is if we take this away and put this back to where it was, notice how it kind of looks like it's just going upwards. There's a cliff here and then it stops. And then, what's this? Should I put a sunshine here going like this? It look kind of like a, cartoony baby book or something, a children's book. So that's not exactly what I'm going for. I wanted something a bit more realistic. So now that I have these as guidelines, not that one, this one, I'll just turn that down a little bit, hide it in the background. And now at least I have a sense of like something around this area right here. That would be very, very small. That would be, I mean, well, it would be the size of her. Something that far off would be the size of her. So actually it'd be kind of big. Something this tall back here is going to be 3 or 4 stories high. That's what I wanted to know with all that perspective stuff. So I'm going to make I'm going to jot a little note down. I'm actually going to make something right now. I just, I don't know what yet. like something very tall. If something is that big, and according to the value system we were using earlier, this is, yeah, that's right. Okay, so according to this value system we're using here, this thing should be this color as it's going that far into the distance. And I'm just going to remember this thing here is standing 3 or 4 stories high, maybe even more, and that's what it is. So it's a big thing back there. I might even make it have some notches here to remind me how many stories it is, and that might end up being, that might end up showing us what it is. Uh, that might be the shape that it becomes is uh, going to be based around this foundation of these story markers here. And we'll just figure that out later. I'm not sure. So that's far off in the distance. We could also use a little bit of depth here. Not depth, what am I looking for? Uh, Something like space. Not space, no. Shape, yeah. Dynamics, dynamics. I just want something, I just wanted to have a bit more feel of like not being flat. Kind of word I'm looking for. Maybe you tell me, write it in the comments. I have no idea what I'm trying to say. So if this, remember this thing here was only 4 stories high, that means it's not that far away. We can still see it. How big is this thing here? If you're just looking at it, just eyeball it. You say, coming from here down to there, that means 1 story here would go down there like that. So this thing is, if I draw this thing here, that's going to be very, very far away. Let's make it smaller. Maybe it's another one of these, but it's further off in the distance. So now we're really starting to get a feeling of perspective. And that would need to be a little bit skinnier. Okay. Yeah, I still don't know what the word is. There's some reason that I wanted to have something like a little bit mountainous kind of looking here, hilly, and it's not just for the heck of it. Give some depth, add a little bit more, almost like landscape texture in a way. Maybe there isn't a word for that, maybe it's just something that I want to do. And make this brush bigger. So I'm starting to fill in some stuff that wasn't filled in before. Okay, would have been nice if I'd made this layer, the foreground layer separate, but oh well. Now something with this tree that I already fixed is it looks more like a tree because we have like there should be one strong root, and then should also be some more randomness of it. So this part here can come back a little, and you got to get into better brush mode. Be random parts. Sometimes you can't get it random enough because what is random? If you're controlling it, then how is it random? And then there's going to be things like leaves. That makes a big problem. There's going to be leaves coming down in the front. I'll start off with a dark color. I just wanted to have patches of leaves because there'll be some behind the branches that we're looking at, and there's always gaps. And there'll be some coming down in the front. Even this trunk that I just drew might be covered up in certain spots. But again, I don't want it to look too, if you try too hard to make it random, then sometimes it gets not random. So maybe I will just leave that exposed as it is. So by using that dark first, then it makes it look like the dark parts are in the back, and I can add the light like this. The lighter leaves will be up in the front here. It looks like a very small tree though. Well, what's wrong with that? It's just a small tree, right? I don't know. It doesn't have the power when it's a small tree like that. It doesn't give the kind of power that I was looking for. but maybe I can work on that. Get a little bit whiter this. I don't know why that's been in that yellow kind of phase. A little bit yellow. So you can have some of the sun coming down on our forehead, maybe hitting our nose, but not the other parts. And around here, getting blocked by some parts, hitting other parts more hard. Just like that. I always want to try to stop doing this thing where I keep zooming in and out. I zoom in and out. It's fine for this type of video, but when I go into time-lapse mode, it's going to be really weird. So now I just kind of exaggerated the light, some darker parts, some darker parts and some lighter parts. And what's going to happen with that, make this tree a little thicker. With the darker parts, when you get up closer, it's okay to have that, and as you go further away, as you can see already, we want it to fade off into those some of those lighter colors. Okay, that makes the tree look a little bit stronger, like that. There's just something a little cartoony about it. Maybe I can just lose this branch, make it seem like the tree is much bigger, but it's going off into, yeah, the other branches will go off up there where we can't see it just yet. That might be helpful. This dark color. We have another layer here, and we're gonna have this very super foreground part up here before you even see the girl. The very, very foreground, and that one will be blurred. Use a filter, put a Gaussian blur on it with a lot of blur. 30, yeah, I said 30, yeah. So now it looks like that's, you know, in our foreground, and like we're not focusing on it, so it's kind of like blurry. It's called field of view, FOV, and that phenomenon happens in photography and in real life, of course. You can tell that's why it looks like that. Now, the other thing that I was kind of worried about is her gesture. Again, this the whole point of this video that I'm doing right now is we're not getting into coloring yet, but just finishing the composition. So I want everything to have some kind of style to it. Like, why is her hand there? Like that, kind of dangling. If her hand is going back like this, what it suggests is that she's still coming up to this tree, and she's just putting her hand there. She's just getting there now. That has a lot of significance to it. Because that's the moment of, I actually went up and looked at the painting that I was talking about, and I should have remembered the artist's name, but I just, you know, I don't. So it was like Jean or Jacques, uh, something like this. And before the last video, I'll get a copy. I might even stop this one halfway through. I'll go get a copy of the image. I was thinking about this, if I'd have any problems with like copyright, if I wanted to show other paintings when I'm talking about them. I guess, I mean, first of all, it's an old painting. The question comes down to who photographed the painting, and then whether or not I give reference, right? So I'm just going to give reference to the website where it came from, which is the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And if they come sue me for, you know, helping to popularize their website, and they're a public museum, by the way, so I hope they don't do that. Wouldn't be good for them. So this color here, yeah, there is a layer there. That's weird. Slightly different. It's different from this color, right? Yeah, okay. There's something weird going on there. So now you can see, starting from the beginning of this video up till now, there's a lot more depth, and you can really start to feel it. That's because I took the time to work on a perspective, and I'm doing it at the same time that I work on a composition, because composition is also not a 2D thing. Sometimes after you've been doing this for a long time, you need to think, where are things 3D wise, right? You know, where are things going to be in the distance and where they're going to be up front. And it brings a lot more power to the art, because, you know, if you just think in 2D and then try and make it 3D, it's not going to be very interesting. Um, you always notice when I'm working on in the when I'm working on female uh, figure, I have a tendency to like make her boobs stand out real far. The reason I do that, I'm not trying to be like, you know, perv or anything. It's not even like boobs are such a necessity just to make her a female. The point is that I just have this, what'd you call it? It's like an insecurity. I want to make sure that she looks female, because I used to draw girls and they'd come out looking too masculine, and people would say it looks like a guy. And then I'd feel, you know, obviously feel like I didn't do my job. So I just made her head a lot smaller. um, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, that's about right. It was way too big and coming out cartoony, which would be fine in other situations, but this is not intended to be a cartoon. So notice this leg. We're getting into something that would be very useful in gesture drawing. Um, it comes from gesture drawing. If you want to get some good poses out of anyone, male or female characters that you're drawing, it's really good to study some gesture drawing. And while I'm doing that, I'm also thinking, where will some of the light and shade be hitting here. Now I had this here where the tree should definitely be blocking out some of the light in this spot. And I wanted to hit like the top of her head and block off, you know, something there like that too. That's going to be a challenge. Make sure it's blocking off the top of her head, because that's going to give me a lot of depth to this. And at the same time, it's also going to be like, how to say, it'll be meaningful, more meaningful, because like it's the shade on the top of her head, and then her eyes in there, and she's looking like from under this branch, and she's the way she's holding her arm up. If you can gather a feeling for it, you know, something like that. And so, yeah, I mean, now it's a lot more stylish, right? You see how there's lines like that. You can just tell. I don't have to. It's kind of self-explanatory. I don't have to say it. It's just something that's really important to do. So first, as I did, check that I have the perspective right, and then instead of leaving that lumpy stick figure of person in there, then you should go in and do something else. Make some more stylish lines. And I want to try and maintain some of these gesture lines that I have in there, so they can become a part of the finished art as well. And that's that. Something like that. This I found was really important when I was drawing earlier, that I need these white blocks to come out and show that how the dress is waving. There's certain parts of it that come out, and other parts will go in the wrinkles. If you check out my drawing, I have a drawing course. You know, you can pay for it, and I show all the fundamentals of how I do a lot of this stuff here. And I go into detail in the one lesson about how to do clothing. So I think that's a really good lesson. If you want to learn how to do clothing, I do recommend that one. I'm sure there's other lessons out there too. You're welcome to them. Okay, so now we're looking a lot more sophisticated, and we have a lot of depth and stuff like that. I am going to take some time and think about what else I want to add to it in order to get the emotion and the feeling, if need be. Maybe this is all I need, just a little bit, and then I'll be back in a second. If not in this video, the next one I'll show you what it was. The inspiration image that I keep mentioning, the Joan of Arc painting from the Met, and yeah, I'll do that in the next video, not this one since I already said that. And I'm going to end this one here. If I do add any more composition, then I'll do it in the next one. It's just like that, everything I did there. At first I did perspective, then I went back and made sure that the sizes of things, even the tree, I thought didn't look right, so I made it bigger. Just so I didn't want it to look like a cherry tree. It's supposed to be like a big, strong tree because that has a lot of meaning to what's going on here. I'm trying to develop a powerful feeling with powerful depth and powerful feeling and emotion, and not a childish, cartoony kind of feeling. So that had to be done. Yeah, we'll see in the next video where we will actually start coloring this. I might even go into detail with this black and white one before I do that. Anyway, yeah, I keep rambling on. We'll see you. Have fun. Do some drawing. Have a good day. Yeah, don't forget to draw too. Keep on drawing.